Yo, what's good with y'all? It's your boy Nick back with another video. Today we are reacting to why the NBA's biggest experiment failed. Let's get straight into it.
The NBA G League Ignite should have worked. It produced 5 top 10 picks, gave high school prospects a legit alternative to pursue professional basketball, and it got commitments from guys like Jalen Green, Scoot Henderson, Dyson Daniels, and then after just 4 seasons, it was gone. What happened here? This seemed like a great idea, pretty well executed, there was a ton of excitement around it. What happened to the NBA G League Ignite? Well, the team officially starts back in April of 2020. The G League, and formerly D League, had operated for years as a minor league or developmental league to the NBA, and by 2020 it had grown to be a foundational part of NBA team building. But the NBA wanted more, thus the creation of G League Ignite. The concept was the NBA would create a team within the existing G League and recruit some of the best high school players in the country to play there rather than in college. And the team would be specifically designed to accommodate the needs of these top tier recruits with a focus on their basketball development. The goal was to get these highly touted recruits, put them on a showcase team with some veterans, have them play against the fierce competition in the G League, and after a year, they'd be even better prepared for the NBA draft than they would have been if they'd gone to college. Now, although this all officially started in 2020, they did actually try to do it in 2019, but they couldn't get anybody to commit, so they
You can't count on people appreciating your fashion sense.
I feel like G League Ignite helped a couple people, but I feel like it wasn't like all the people that win the lottery, those were just the people that were playing good. For real, for real. Like, I don't know too much about G League Ignite. I didn't even know they were gone until like earlier this year. But yeah.
further increased the salaries for the players they were trying to recruit, and in 2020 they got their first round of commitments. The inaugural signees for the G League Ignite were headlined by Jalen Green, who ESPN had ranked as the #1 player in the 2020 class, and Jonathan Kuminga, who reclassified from 2021 to 2020 to sign with the Ignite. And this was a massive deal for the Ignite. To have just gotten started and already have 2 prospects as highly touted as Green and Kuminga on the roster gave the team instant credibility, and it looked like this was going to be a landmark moment, establishing the G League Ignite as something that could really change the basketball developmental landscape. But the first season just kind of went okay for the team. They went 8-7 and made the playoffs, but this was still a time period in which live sports were in a very weird spot due to the pandemic, and the growth of the league really suffered as a result. Both Green and Kuminga had solid but not outstanding seasons and entered the 2021 draft with their stocks really not having been hurt or helped by their year with the team. In an ideal world, one of these guys would have taken off and become the consensus first overall pick and really created a lot of momentum, and even though that's not what happened, this was still the beginning stages and it was a pretty solid first step. But the real proof of concept for the Ignite would be how well the prospects played in the NBA, because in theory, they should have been even better prepared for the league coming out of the G League rather than college. At least that was the concept. You're playing against guys with NBA experience that are hungry to get back in the league, that are grown men, and you are in a professional basketball development environment. There's no going to class, no NCAA tournament. Really, the whole goal of the team is to develop you, which is not the case even for the most talented one and done freshmen in college. So all eyes were on how Green and Kuminga would do in their first season in the NBA as the next class of G League Ignite signees rolled in. Year 2 featured guys like Jaden Hardy, who ESPN had ranked as the #2 player in the 2022 high school class, MarJon Beauchamp, another top 50 high school prospect, and the program's first international signee, Dyson Daniels from Australia. This wasn't really seen as a
Hey, shout out to Dyson. Dyson, we gonna win a championship with Dyson on the team. And as in we, I'm talking about the Atlanta Hawks. We gonna go to the championship for sure.
step forward from the prior year's group, but it was still a good team. That season, once again, though, was affected by the pandemic, which limited them to just 12 games, where they went 6-6 and missed the playoffs, in addition to a few showcases. And although there were some success stories, Beauchamp went in the first round and Daniels flew all the way up to the 8th overall pick, Hardy fell to the 2nd round, and in general, there was just not as much momentum around the team as the NBA would have liked. The pandemic was just really limiting the amount of games these guys could play, and playing 12 to 15 games in the G League and a couple of showcases was just not nearly as much film as you'd be getting in college, where some teams are playing 35, almost 40 games. And even more concerningly, the Ignite prospects were getting a bit of a reputation for being guys that were talented, yes, but didn't really develop all that much in their 1 year with the program, which is concerning for a program whose whole thing was
Yeah, that's true. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, most of the people that came out of Ignite, like Jalen Green, Scoot Henderson, they didn't do that good in their first season. I don't think they did. But like they're still developing. Like Jalen Green, people on the internet don't rock with him for how he performed in the playoffs. And then Scoot's not living up to the hype that he was hyped up at when he got drafted.
Supposed to be giving these guys better opportunities to develop as individual players compared to college. Which brings us to year 3, and by far the biggest signee that year was Scoot Henderson, the top-ranked point guard in his high school class, continuing the Ignite's tradition of attracting highly ranked lead guards. There was a lot of excitement around the Ignite and Scoot that season because they were finally able to have a mostly normal season post-pandemic, and the Ignite themselves were showcased on national TV with 2 exhibition games between the Ignite and Victor Wembanyama's international team, meant to be a showcase of the potential first and second picks in the 2023 NBA draft. And had it not been for Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson might have been the first ever #1 overall pick for the Ignite and truly a breakout piece for them. But of course, that wasn't the case. Scoot himself was really good on the Ignite, but ultimately went 3rd overall behind Wemby and college star Brandon Miller. And as his rookie season began, things got really concerning for the future of the program. Scoot really struggled as a rookie despite looking pretty pro-ready as a prospect. And to that point, none of the other highly drafted Ignite alums had outperformed their draft stock. Jalen Green was good for the Rockets, but never quite made a star kind of leap and was ultimately traded to the Suns as part of a package for Kevin Durant in the 2025 offseason. Kuminga never established himself as a core piece with the Warriors despite a ton of potential, and arguably the biggest success story of all was Dyson Daniels, who was buried behind tons of wing depth in New Orleans before getting traded to the Hawks as part of a package for DeJounte Murray and breaking out as a defensive star. But when you combined those 3 outcomes with a slow start to Scoot's career, there were real questions about whether the Ignite were actually good for the development of the prospect.
Scoot got to prove himself this season. Like, he has no excuse to not play good this season. He got no one in front of him, playing in front of him, got Dame there to mentor him, even though he's going to be out for the season. Anthony is gone. That's his team. That's his team now. So he got to show up.
And if it wasn't, the team was not going to last very much longer. Which brings us to year 4, which would be the final year of the G League Ignite. This class was headlined by 2 top 5 high school recruits, Ron Holland and Matas Buzelis. But despite the talent, this version of the Ignite was actually the worst one yet, finishing as one of the worst teams in the entire league, which along with other factors I'll get into in a second, basically ended the league on the spot. For Holland and Buzelis, as of this recording, it's too early to tell exactly what they're going to be at the NBA level, but they definitely both showed some promise.
Buzelis is nice. I saw him play at Summer League. He's nice. That dude is for sure good.
But so did a lot of the other Ignite.
And then Ron Holland, he just need to develop a jump shot. He a lockdown defender, so.
Alums that ultimately didn't fulfill their promise to this point in the league. And unfortunately, the NBA just decided they were done. They were ending the Ignite program, which was really disappointing for a concept that seemed like a really good idea at the start. It seemed like the basketball landscape at the time was in desperate need of an alternative to college basketball, and it had been a decade since guys like Brandon Jennings started going overseas for a year to get paid and skip college, and the Ignite seemed like a perfect fit for highly recruited players that wanted to develop, get to the NBA, get paid, and skip college. But a few things stood in the way. I mentioned a couple of times in the video, the pandemic really did slow a lot of the momentum here with the Ignite. The team just wasn't that visible and wasn't playing as many games as they should have. But by far the biggest reason this didn't work is because of some of the changes that the NCAA actually made, possibly as a result of threats like the Ignite and other things around the world that were trying to keep players out of college. The NCAA changed its rules around name, image, and likeness, aka NIL, which is
them college players getting paid a bag for sure. They getting paid like $1 million. The quarterback at Tennessee transferred to UCLA get paid even more than what he was making. I think he's making $7 million now. Like, it's people making so much money. Like, you would rather stay in college than go to the pros.
Essentially allowed athletes to go to college and get paid. And as of this recording,
now, I'm talking about with football. With NBA, they get paid. If you're a high pick, you get paid a lot. But if you're just projected to go lower and you could go back to college and your main goal is to get money, college is the way to go.
Players getting paid millions of dollars for just one season of college basketball, which kind of just eliminated any market that the dollars for just one season of college.
8 figures? I know he's the #1 player in the country, but God.
college basketball, which kind of just eliminated any market that the Ignite would have had in the first place. The success that they did have was with the highest ranked players in each high school class, but they could just no longer compete with the money that those guys were being offered to play in college, which makes sense. The G League doesn't make enough money to pay these guys millions of dollars, and they're certainly providing way more value to those colleges that are on TV all the time and are big programs than the value they're providing the G League. So it makes sense they're getting paid more in college. And at that point, once NIL came into this, it was pretty much over for the Ignite. Obviously, there was still a developmental angle, but we hadn't really seen that come to fruition in the NBA. And if they also couldn't compete money-wise, there was basically no reason for the team to exist. However, even if NIL never came into play, I'm not sure the Ignite would have been a success anyway. One of the other big issues that came from the team was it was just very weird to structure it. It was cool to get these highly recruited guys, but you were only getting 1 or 2 of them a year, then maybe 1 or 2 other top 100 ranked players or international players. But then you have to field the rest of the roster. At first, it was a bunch of NBA veterans that were just there to mentor the young guys, but that didn't really work, and it's just hard to get players to sign up for just being G League role players so that these 18 and 19-year-olds can showcase themselves for the draft. And you couldn't really field an entire team of high school recruits because some guys wouldn't play enough to get drafted. And so actually crafting the team was a much bigger challenge than most people realize. All of which leads me to believe that the Ignite experiment will never return, which is disappointing because it really was such a cool concept that could have worked eventually, but was just never really put in the right situation to be successful.
Yeah, that's for sure. Shout out to Sporting. Shout out to him. I think I reacted to one of his other videos. Shout out to him. Let me know what y'all think in the comments if y'all made it this far. Most of y'all don't be making it this far, but hopefully if y'all did, subscribe, like the video, comment down below some other videos y'all want me to react to. It doesn't have to just be basketball. It could be football, it could be music, it could be whatever. Y'all don't got it don't got just be basketball videos. If y'all made it to the end of this video, please comment down below. I'll appreciate it. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'm out. See y'all next week.